All right. Did you guys get a notice that's recording? All right, good. All right, great. Okay, so recording is started. I just went over the introduction of the objectives. The PowerPoint is in this, all the material is in this folder. If you're just joining us on the video, I'm going to start with Atlas.ti now. All right. So you can open that folder, or you could just listen along. I know it's 7 o'clock on a winter Wednesday, so you might just want to listen and enjoy the sound of my voice for what it's worth for the next 50 minutes. That's fine. All right. So let me open up. I'm going to keep this over here, and I'm going to open up Atlas.ti, and we're going to start a new project. All right. The first thing we're going to do is, well, let me show you what we'll work with. Actually, this was a question that came up earlier. I have an interview. It's an audio interview. A woman, Shirley Turkle, is talking to people in Zoom and interviewing people Zoom and interviewing people face to face. So it was an MP3 file. I loaded it up to Otter.ai, and it turned into a transcript. And here's what I got. So this was originally a MP3 file, audio, converted to a text. I tweaked it a little bit, but using Otter.ai. So that's how Otter.ai works. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to open Atlas.ti, and I'm going to bring this in to Atlas.ti. So when you start up Atlas.ti, it looks like this. You have your projects, then it's just like news. There's some really good tutorials here, playlists, you can look at that. So it's really well, that's why I actually think this should be the standard in our program. It is the most well supported of all the qualitative data analysis software. So there are plenty of references, they're baked right in. They give free workshops all the time. They're very good. You can learn a lot. And the free workshops start from introductions to, using it with a certain sort of theoretical approach, also a certain method. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new project. Now, there are 3 things you could do to start a project. You could open an existing one right here. I have a couple of examples here, a couple of ones I'm working on, or you could just create a new project. So we'll call it. We're going to analyze the Turkle interview. Now, how many of you, just raise your hand, are analyzing interviews? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, 4. I know I can't see everyone's hand, but okay, a lot of you are. Great. So we'll spend a little extra time on this. All right, so for this project, we're going to work on one long document, and the other one we're going to work on about 30 shorter ones. So you can get an idea on how to go deep and how to go broad. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is add a document. All right. Again, the 4 entities I'm going to be referring to, you just have to worry about the first 2, documents and codes. Documents, codes, memos, and quotations are like the 4 building blocks. So we're going to add a document. That's what we're going to start with. And let's see if I could find one here. Where was I? Turkle interview. That's okay. So it imports it in. Okay. So now what we're going to do with this one, our job, all right, our research project is to analyze her opinion of Zoom. So I actually wrote it down in the workshop overview. We're going to, what is Dr. Turkle's opinion of Zoom? Okay, and we're going to do that with open coding. That's the research project we're giving ourselves. So any mention of Zoom, that you can get her, it's her article, we're going to code. Now, can everybody read the print okay? Do you want me to zoom in a little more? I'll zoom in a little more. So here's the text. It's in Atlas.ti. You see a tab here. You can have many tabs open at once. We only have one open. And what we're going to do this by open coding. All right. Now, open coding means we just start off the top of our head. And decision you have to make is how big is the quotation you take? Let's start here. So interviews, what is hard about interviews in person or Zoom? You never know what the person is going to say. You have to make it up in real time. Okay. So we could code this somehow. What do you think? What would be what word or idea or phrase comes to the top of your head when you see this? Anybody? Doesn't matter. It doesn't be right or wrong. Just blurt something out.
Indecision.
Indecision. Very good. All right, we'll take it. Apply code. So just go. There are like 3 ways to apply a code. You can right click, which I did. You can go up to the top left. Apply code. We'll call it indecision. Also, let's also add another one. I'm going to say difficulty. So there we have 2 codes on there: difficulty and indecision. Good. Now this here, I don't know if you can see it. If I can zoom in on this now, this is the quotation. It highlights that. That's what you're coding, and these are the codes. Okay. Now. Okay, we'll keep reading. We're doing line by line code. If you put it that way, in-person communication does seem a bit more stressful compared to Zoom. That's true, but talking face-to-face also means you could make eye contact. You could take in a full body and gestures and voice. You could pick up so many cues about what's going on. Now, we want her opinion of Zoom versus real life, right? That's our research question, so to speak. How would we code that? What would we say? What's this phrase? What jumps out? Is this 4 in-person interviews or 4 Zoom interviews? Is it a benefit? What would you call this? Like, I don't know. Anyone? I'll start us off. I would say, apply code. I would call it benefit. In person. All right. So how does Zoom compare what you've learned about text you face to face in a sense, but still on a computer? Well, I've been doing some interesting studies that show for some purposes, you really are better off with a telephone call. That focused attention you can give a voice is better than Zoom. Oh, well, that's interesting. So let's highlight this. Anyone think of a code off the top of their head for this?
Sounds like a better option.
That's right. Okay, better option. We could do this a couple of different ways. We could just say, let's do it that way. Let's do better option. Actually, let's be a little more specific. Let's call it better option.
To face-to-face or something?
Phone. Just better option phone. That's great. Let's cover that later. Better option phone. Well, we can code it. We can make more than one code. So better than face-to-face, and I say better than Zoom, right? So that's great.
So you just created 3 codes from that one
quotation, exactly.
Okay.
And this is a small sample, but we'll see how that could play out later a little better. That's why radio hasn't disappeared. Now for teaching, for meetings, when partners and families can't get together, I think Zoom is very good for that. So, and clearly people are doing creative things with Zoom. When partners and families can't be together, Zoom is good. So, okay, Zoom, let's call it Zoom. We'll code this Zoom advantage. Now we could organize them and clean them up better later, but we don't have to do it now. And clearly people are doing very creative things with Zoom. I'm teaching on Zoom and I'm working to make those classes exciting. So we'll call this apply codes working with Zoom. But I'm looking at 30 little postage stamp faces. And if you're seeing me on a postage stamp with a fake background, okay, it's not natural. So let's apply code difficulty with Zoom. Okay. So interviewer, so face-to-face is more natural in your opinion because there's more human emotional information. Part of what we say face-to-face is what we really mean, the body. How does a mother know a child is anxious? Through many dimensions of how the muscles, neck are sitting, how the forehead is sitting. In Zoom, you're never looking at the person's eyes, you know? I don't want to sound churlish or negative because I'm grateful for this technology. Were it not for this technology, I would not be able to teach my classes. All right, so this first part seems like it's an advantage for face-to-face, right? So.
Dr. Schamberg,
Yes.
when you created that last code and called it difficulty,
Yeah.
is that one that if we're not sure, does it make sense to create maybe two? Like I was thinking it's a disadvantage, maybe not necessarily difficult.
Oh, cool. Yeah. All right. So hold that thought for when we analyze the codes, because what we could do later is you could rename that code or you could split a code. So if you got three things coded and you're like, well, two of these mean one and one means another, you could separate the codes later.
Okay.
All right. And now look, also, so I coded this. And now you're never looking at the person's eyes, you know. I don't want to sound churlish or negative. I'm grateful to this technology. Okay, so were it not for this technology, I would not be able to teach my classes. All right, so let's say we'll call this uses of Zoom, all right? For class, oops. Okay.
Is it a use or is it an advantage?
Oh, advantage, that's good. Either one, that's great. I love these wordsmithing things, but you know, my personal thing is not to get too picky at the first open code, right? Later on, I'm like, I'll wordsmith a little more, and that's when the real fun happens. But what you think advantage it would be better?
I don't know. I don't know what everyone else is thinking. If I'm just
let's put both.
Are we all kind of thinking the same thing, or am I like just not getting it? And I
know it doesn't like everyone's going to come at this differently, but I think as the process goes over and over, it comes. I put both on because then we can merge. I'll show you how to merge them.
okay.
Yeah, I was thinking advantage also.
Okay, that's great.
Yay! Thanks, baby.
Okay, Jen.
So, all right, let's do a little more here. We left off here. All right. I think my classes have been extraordinary for me, have given me deep insight into the experience of my students, which has been very difficult. I think we're all very sustained together in these classes, but here's what I worry about. Because I worry that there's going to be a lot of businesses and a lot of small universities, a lot of enterprises that say, you know what, it's really cheaper to do all this on Zoom. And after all, it probably did 60% of what we need. 60% is good enough. So I worry we're going to be losing the wrong 40%. As people we need as educators, as healers, as what we need as people. So what would you call this? Any worries about Zoom, concerns about Zoom?
Sounds like there's an advantage and a disadvantage in there.
That's right. So let's break it down. Where would you see the advantage? It's cheaper, right?
Well, it's cheaper.
All right, let's call that advantage. Oh, so now look, it came up. It's a small one, but it came up as an autocomplete here because we have that already. So, and we have a code Zoom advantage, so that's good too. So, when you open code, we can merge those later on. And that's good. And after all, it's probably 60% we need, and 60% is good enough for us. So, actually, we can also look at this. Like, let's call this a rationalization. just to make it difficult for Zoom. Or you call it reason for Zoom. And I worry that we're going to be losing the wrong 60% of what we need as educators and what we need as healers on these people. So we'll call this concern of Zoom. Okay. So interviewer, so you would advise against using Zoom in most cases? Well, it depends on what purpose. All technology depends on what you want to use it for. If the purpose is setting up to do an interview, let's say it accomplishes its purpose. Okay. So let's say Zoom has a specific job. Purpose of writing a significant article about me, what really captures my essence in some ways, I would say you should spend an afternoon with me and have a meal with me. We want to be human to each other. All right. So what would you label this? So think about the codes we already have. We could do this too. Let me show you a different way of code. Here are all the codes we already have. So you might want to go.
That sounds like face-to-face.
Oh, yeah, so it sounds like a in-person advantage. We're using the word in person, but face-to-face is good too. So let's apply the codes, and I'm going to say in benefit in person. Good. And if we said face-to-face, we can merge them too. So let's add that too. Let's say we called it face-to-face advantage. So it's a complicated thing that's going on now. Well, I like that. I think it's really what's important to keep in mind is what your human purpose is. This is my big message in all my works. So complicated, whoops. Apply code, complicated.
Dr. Trevor, are you just right-clicking to get to that?
That's right, yeah, I'm just right-clicking. Or you
Okay.
could, if you want, you could right-click, or you could go up here and hit apply code.
Okay, just
Let's
looks
go with
easier to right-click.
Or I think you should be able to, if your codes are over here, yeah, you could drag and drop it from your list over here too.
So you just highlighted that?
Yeah, I just highlighted it, and then I dragged the code from the list of codes on the left-hand side.
Oh, okay, so if you've already created it.
Yeah, so that's what we're gonna
Got
do
it.
next. We're gonna have 4 a priori codes, and you can just drag them over, or they'll pop down. Well, that could be more convenient for me. I could start seeing patients all over the world, basically. All right, so this would be an advantage. Okay. But is that really serving the human purpose of my really being the most intimate therapist a doctor I could be? Or all this telemedicine? Am I being the best doctor could be if I can't lay on hands? But so let's put, I'm just going to put disadvantage. It doesn't really matter. We're not writing research. We're not going to finish this at all tonight, but disadvantage.
The next one you do, would you just do that drag again so you can see it?
So I think the big question is not what it's like to be in a quarantine for these very extraordinary times. I'm saying let's be very careful as we move ahead. What do we do with the experience? So let's bring complicated over, right? So just drag complicated and there. And then let's.
I'm sorry, you dragged it and you just clicked on where you had the blue highlight and
I
it
just
attaches it?
dropped it. Yep, that's right. I just dropped it.
Got it.
Where it's
Okay,
highlighted.
thanks.
So there you have, you've coded a document, and you can go through coding documents, and then you can look at your code. So we're going to go up here to home, and we're going to look at our code. So this is sort of it's called the entities manager. We're going to click on codes, and now we're going to see all of our codes. All right. I know it's probably small on your screen, but these are all the codes. Groundedness is how many times they're mentioned. All right, how many times I've coded. Density, it's a formula on how they connect to each other. So now let's see. So with the good, now let's, we're gonna merge and we'll split a code, but we're not gonna overthink it. All right, we're just gonna do it. We're gonna do the mechanical technical process, not intellectual. So let's say, oh look, we have these two codes, benefits of in-person. And when I click it, it pops up. The actual quotation pops up. So you can go and review your work this way. Say, oh, that's what that is. So let me do one with three here. If I quote advantages of Zoom, and all of the quotes that I've copied so I can look. Now, this is great if you're looking at a big document, but say you're looking at 10 different interviews and you've coded this, you can bring them all together. Now, let's do this. Let's go to benefits of in-person, benefit in person. I wasn't thinking, those sounded. So if I double check them and they're like the same code, I can merge them. I just drag this up and I put it on top. And we just say, let's just say, this pop-up's kind of new. We just merge is it. All right. Wait, I just want to merge them. All right, so they changed a little bit. You could used to be able to drag and drop. I just highlighted both of them with the control key. Now I'm gonna hit merge, and it's gonna merge them. Benefits in person, merge codes. So now instead of having 2 and 1, we have 1. All right. Difficulty. I'm sorry about that. So let's just say we check out disadvantages and difficulties. We just and say all these 3, we think they're the same code. We hit control, we highlight them all, right click, merge, and we'll just call difficulty with Zoom. And we merged it. All right. Face-to-face advantage sounds like benefits of in-person. We can just click that, we hit control, and we bring it up here, and then we right click and we'll merge. All right, so then, well, this is how, now I'm doing it fast and I'm not reading it, but this is how you sort of develop themes, all right, as you go along, how you merge your codes. And then, you know, this takes a long time and I would be reading them more carefully. I'd be rewording the codes, you know, thinking them through a little bit, reading the documents, but this is how you do it. Now, say you have, let's go with difficulties with Zoom. Or, yes, difficulties with Zoom. So I have these 3. And I'm like, maybe I should split them. Right clicked it and I go down to split. And what it does is it gives me a screen like this, and you could pick 1 or 2 that you want, and you could say, I want this to be something different. So split the code. Click this one, go to split code. I'll add a new code. And difficulty with Zoom, and we'll call it Zoom no body language. Right? And then we split the code, and then it went there. So you could split codes that way too. So you could separate them also. When you open code, you're probably not going to split codes. You're probably going to be more merging them. but that's what you could do. Now, let me show you one other thing, and I'll get into more of this on our next example. A report. Reports are really good. I'll show you how it works on a bigger project too. Now, as you do this, you're going to be quoted. You're going to have a lot of documents. We only have one document. You know, so if you have 20 interviews, you're going to have 20. You might start off with like 100 codes, get it down to 30, then get that down to 10. They're going to be more complicated, right? And then what that's going to be is that's going to be the basis for your paper. Like, I think that would be a great way to organize your chapter 4, one way to have sections in your chapter 4. So, all right, let's say I did this. Let's say this is like, we'll just say advantages of Zoom, benefits of in-person. I'm just gonna like, let me just make this up, all right? Zoom, benefits of in-person. Sorry. Now, suppose I got this down to 4 really good codes. And that's what you're going to do. You're going to do it in more 10 days, not 10 minutes, but and then complicated. All right. Let's say I got 3. We'll just make complicated the third one.
Dr. Sherrick, I just have a question while you're doing that.
Shoot.
So when you go from all of these open codes and you merge them to get, those few themes.
Yeah.
This doesn't set it up where all of your original codes stay contained in one area and then your new merged codes are in a separate area, does it?
Yeah, well, the good thing, honestly, the new version of Atlas.ti, this is a new development. If you look in the comments, they keep the original, they add the original codes that they came from in the comments. You can see them down here. So it kind of keeps a paper trail of what you did. So that's a helpful advantage. That wasn't the same like a year ago. That's new. All right, so now say you, like, again, pretend these make sense, all right? I was just goofing around here to make it fast. But say you've worked on this, you've spent 10 days or 10 weeks doing this, you've got your 100 open codes to 3 main themes. What you can do now is you can create a report. I hit report, and whoops, no, it's selected. I gotta select all of them. Let me select all of them. Control. You could do one at a time or all of them. I'll do all of them. You report. 3 items selected. I want the codes, I want the quotations, and I want the comments. Actually, let me keep the comments. I hit create report. It's generating a report. And then here it is. And here the main code, advantages of Zoom. Here they are. Benefits in person. Here are all the quotations. Complicated. There are all those. I think it saved the. Yeah, so it also saved the comments, which were the previous codes. So now, what I think this makes a really good starting point for is, writing your paper, right? Like for me, the key here is that it's complicated. So I would probably start off with the complicated part and then go into advantages of Zoom. So to summarize what she said. And in a nutshell, so say, Jennifer, you're doing work on superintendent's use of social media, right? So if you find like 9 or 10 themes, and then each one you pull out, you put the quotes, what you would do would be, honestly, and that's where memo writing comes in. Or even in your code, you could put a comment in your code on what that code means. And we're going to do that in a second. Then you write your comment, like, I use this code, like, I don't know, looking for another job. Say that was a big theme that came out. A lot of these superintendents, they bounce around a lot from one job to another. They go for a higher pay. So they use social media for that. You get the quotations, the codes, you pull it out, and that's a heading. And that'll pull out not just from one interview, but from all, 20 of them. All right, look, I know I just taught you, a week's worth of coding in 20 minutes. Any big questions on the basic gross motor movements? All right.
Yeah, why would we have questions? We got this.
Well, once you play around with something simple, that's why if you get the chance, you download the folder, download Atlas.ti, play around with the files I gave you, and then just play around. You can't break your work, right? You could always go back and do it. So again, I'll be available. But from the code, you'll have a nice report, which is the basis of your data. All right. Now, another thing, let me start a new project here. Wow, new project.
I just can't believe they did this without computers. This is what I can't understand. They did this by hand, like coding.
Yeah, I know. Actually, when I did my dissertation, I did it by hand. What I used, I laid all the paper out. I just had a bunch of highlighters, and I had different color highlighters, and I did that. And then I would cut things, and then I put them in piles, and this just made life. This makes life a lot easier. But and transcription, the automatic transcription is only like a few years old right now. Anyway, I mean, people were hand transcribing, even in our program. I think even some of your previous doctoral students were doing it.
That Otter AI is amazing, Dr. Schamberg.
Yeah, it saves a lot of time. It does.
Yeah.
Okay, we close this one and we'll start a new project. All right, now, is anyone here using Qualtrics to get data? All right, so if you're using Qualtrics and you have open-ended data, what you could do is, let's start a new project here. Survey. These are questions, I got the answers online. It was a survey of business entrepreneurs in the fitness industry. Like, what piece of advice would you give people? So, fitness business advice. So, all right, let me show you what it looks like, the raw data. When you download your data from Qualtrics, you're going to get in a spreadsheet. Now, here's the spreadsheet. This was the data. You got their full name, which you wouldn't use in your research. This was online. Their title and their full quote that they gave, right? So they were asked, what's their one piece of advice? And I don't know if you could see it. Let me blow it up. But it's things like, be authentic, laugh a lot, serve others. There's always more than one path to career happiness and success. Keep learning and growing. The fitness industry is always changing. Stay motivated and current. You need to keep learning. Don't make it all about you. Inspire, motivate, and support those around you. So that's the advice. For this one, we're going to play around and imagine we have a theoretical framework, right? We're going to imagine we have research tells us there are 4 ways to succeed in this business. Interpersonal skills, intrapersonal skills, right? It's in your head. Self-care and self-motivation. So those are going to be our codes. And we're going to look at this and we're going to code with those 4 codes. So the first thing we got to do is we're going to import the survey. So we're going to import survey, and all right, advice data. That's the Excel I just showed you. Now, what Atlas.ti does, it grabs a survey and it makes every answer a separate document. Watch. And it tags them also. So, survey completed. There were 20 answers there, so we have 20 documents. All right. It gave them all a number. It made up 3 codes. It coded the name. Let's see if I can pull one up. Yeah, it coded the name. So it took the column titles, the column headers, and turned it into a code, which is pretty helpful. All right, that would be helpful for you. All right, so now I'm going to give you guys, I'm going to show this to you in a screen, and we're going to do this fast. We don't have that much time, but here are the 4 codes. Let me just see if I can get them all on one screen. All right. So you might want to just jot them down somewhere so I can close this and give you a screen, but interpersonal skills. So that's skills that you have with other people, like social skills. Intrapersonal skills, those are your mental skills, right? I got a little definition here if you want. Self-care, like taking care of yourself, and self-motivation. So we're going to see which one's what most important, which one, how that works in these interviews, okay? In these questions. All right. So I'm going to take this off the screen. Just remember those 4. And once we write them down, we're not going to need to. All right. So never accept other people's low perception of you. Interpersonal, intrapersonal, self-care, or self-motivation, or more than one of them. What do you think? What would you say? Anyone? All right. It sounds like interpersonal to me because you're dealing with other people, right? It also sounds like intrapersonal. All right. Now let's go to the second one. Don't make it all about you. Inspire, motivate, and support those around you. What do you think? Interpersonal, intrapersonal, self-care, or self-motivation? What do you think? Anybody?
Interpersonal, probably, right?
First, yep, I think that's it. There's no, I don't think there's a right answer. We're not, but that's great. I would say that too. Yeah, definitely. And we'll leave it at that. 3. Decide what you want in your life and career. Take action every day. You get closer to what you want, and hire a coach who's where you want to help get you there faster. So what do you think that is? Interpersonal, intrapersonal, self-care, or self-motivation?
Intrapersonal and
Okay.
maybe self-motivation too.
Yeah, perfect. I love it. Intrapersonal and self-motivation. Next one, never tire of showing your compassion for people who need your gifts. Meet people where they are, help them bring forward in a loving way. You have more opportunities than you can handle if you start all endeavors with a love for lifting others up. What do you think?
Interpersonal.
Interpersonal, very good. The next one. All right. Move against your fear. I think a lot of people, myself included, become paralyzed when it comes to taking risks or trying something new to advance their professional careers. For example, we will hesitate or get stuck launching a new program or concept, or even going after new clients because we are worried that something else is something similar, or that we might be told no. Don't let your fears hold you back from following your passion. Relentlessly pursue what you believe is your purpose, and greatness will come. What do you think?
Intrapersonal,
Yeah,
and then
that
I think
sounds like
self-motivation too.
Yeah, good. I think both are very good. Great. Perfect. I agree. Just my mouse is a little sensitive here, so. Interpersonal, it's already there, so I'm just gonna click it. And I don't think we added self-motivation yet, but we'll, oh yeah, we did, self-motivation, click that. We don't have self-care yet. That's the only one we don't have yet. But always know why. Your purpose, your cause, your belief, that will inspire you for years to come. Anybody? What do you think? I'd say self-motivation. We'll do 2 more and then we'll crunch these numbers a little bit, okay? Crunch these letters a little bit. Strive to find more work-life play balance. Okay. The negative impact on stress in our lives is often ignored and undervalued. It can unravel everything you work so hard to achieve. All right, so I think this one to me sounds like self-care, correct? Would you say that? Self-care. Good, so we have all. Let's do one or 2 more. Stay curious about your clients, your profession, and yourself. What would you say? Anybody?
Enter, maybe?
Sounds good. Enter. Oops, and my mouse slipped again. And also, like I said, I could just grab interpersonal and I could throw it there. Oops, actually, there was one mistake here. Let me see if this works. Yeah, I could put it on there. Now, a little tweak. I made a little mistake there. I highlighted what you're probably better at doing, and I don't think I made this mistake before, but this section is already coded as full quote. It's really going to work well if you one choice is how much you decide to quote. If you quote the whole unit, it's really going to help you, and I'll show you right now. Especially if you code with more than one code. One thing we could do, I'm going to show you this right now. It's pretty helpful on this. It is a analyze. Okay, so one thing we didn't do is a co-occurrence table. Now we only have 10 codes. Actually, I'm going to remove these. Oh, no, actually I could do it here. The co-occurrence table is really helpful. It can really help show relationships if you've been coding quotes with more than one code. For example, I go to co-occurrence table and I'm going to click the codes I want on this is the column. All right, these are columns. And these are rows. So I'm going to pick the same 4, just our main codes, right? And then what it gives us is a very small version, but it'll show us where the codes overlap. And lo and behold, right here, we've only done 10, but if we did 200 of these, you could really see patterns on where, so you could say something like, self-motivation, despite being about the self, really connects with it's intrapersonal. Self-motivation and interpersonal skills seem very related, right? So you're going to see patterns doing it this way. All right. And then you can export this. What I would do is you could export as Excel. It takes it as a spreadsheet, and you could use that right in your chapter 4 or 5. All right, we have about 9 minutes. There were a few things I wanted to wrap up. I know I went fast on this, but I kind of feel this is an overview. And if you're using Atlas.ti and you have the full version, or you could lease the version. That's another thing. Let me wrap it up here. Basically, I just wanted to show you options. Let me show you PowerPoint. All right, I'm gonna close this up.
I just had a question about that screen, actually.
Oh, go
I
ahead.
don't know if I raised my hand or if I was clapping hands just now, but
I'm sorry,
when
Jennifer,
you-
go ahead.
when you
What
did that array.
Yeah.
How, I'm still trying to figure out like how you came up with them outside of them being themes or looking like themes. They were the
Well-
same. They're the same words.
Which one? Yeah, so the way the array goes is it will always, there'll always be, let me just create this here.
But why was it horizontal and vertical? Like where was it coming from that it was different in order to connect them back together again?
Well, you'll see that,
Like so the box to the left, right, where you started.
here, these rows here.
Well, no, to your left in the next box over.
Here.
Yeah, so all of those.
Yeah.
So
These
you
are every code in the project.
So, okay, so every code in the project, but it's also the same list that's on the bottom.
Yeah, so these are the column names, and these are the row names. So, you know, if I don't really care about, you know, self-motivation, I can click that out and it'll disappear, see?
So they're just column names and row names that happen to come from a survey in Qualtrics that you uploaded for this.
No, these are the codes. These are the codes we created, interpersonal.
All right, so, right, but
So
I guess
this-
I'm just trying to figure out why you have them in these two separate boxes that would
All
then
right, that's a good
create.
point. All right, these are where, this is called a co-occurrence table. So it's where two codes are on the same, are overlap. Okay, so self-motivation and interpersonal.
Came
there are two-
from,
There are two times, let me click this box and it should work. All right, so there are two times, I don't know if you can see over here, where the same
There were-
section had both codes, so that's telling you something important. For example, if you coded and it was like, someone said on your research, desire to be innovative and flexibility. And that kept coming up and said, well, people who had a real desire to innovate also were coded to be flexible. So those are two themes that seem really related because, you know, they're happening at the same time.
okay,
So this is called a co-occurrence table. This is where a code happens where two codes overlap.
okay, so the only way that you're gonna see this visually is if you create the vertical and the horizontal, the columns and the rows here. The only other way that you would really actually see that is if you're doing your old fashioned cut and paste.
No, I don't know if you're doing cut and paste. Yeah, I don't know if it added up for you. Like you'd have two colors of highlighter on something, and then, you know, you'd have to go back and figure it all out. Yeah, so it's like these are all the places where you have two colors of highlighter on.
Okay, so this is the advantage of using this program.
Yeah,
is to
yeah. I
see
mean, you
things
could
like
do it by
this.
hand. It would be really, you know, you would need like a 3D, you know, chess set or something.
A lot of color coding. right?
Yeah. Okay, it's just one extra feature. It's a helpful one if you're doing something like this, and you've done the work already. It's just revealing, you know, more patterns for you. And there are other things you could do with Atlas.ti. This is like, you know, one, you've already done the work. It's just a new way of showing you like where two codes are. I don't know if you can see all the way to the right, like, and then you can click them on and it'll show you, you know, and if you had like 20 of them, interesting. Well, when intrapersonal and intrapersonal skills overlap, like if I had a bunch of those, I'd say, wow, very interesting. You know, people normally think intrapersonal and interpersonal are opposites or they happen in isolation. Our advice shows that they're very intimately related. You know, for example, three people, you know, then I would describe how they're interrelated like that. So it's, you know, it can really reveal patterns that you wouldn't see normally. All right. Like I said, I think I see a lot of chats here. Oops, let me put this over here. All right, I wasn't reading the chats, but I got a few DMs. Yeah, so someone asked, yeah, so I just made a little, I imagined if you have a framework, these codes would come from a framework. Or if you did a lit review and there are four, say, oh, all success, so far, literature says successful entrepreneurs have interpersonal skills, intrapersonal skills, self-care, and self-motivation. Like, oh, that's what I'm going for. Let me look, see if that's true or not, or how that works in a more complex way. Or if there was a quantitative study that said that, say, I want to go into details. I want to look deeply. I'm basing it on that. That's my theoretical framework, right? Say someone has a theoretical framework. You could use the theoretical framework as your codes, as your a priori coding. So that's just another way of doing it. Or you could open code, you know. You know, we used I used for one project, we made a code book. And one person made a code book and three other people used it, and we saw it into a rate of reliability. Let me finish up the PowerPoint here. So I know it's a lot of information, but if you, I'll send you my schedule. If you want to, half hour or an hour workshop, just let me know. And I will go over with you, a one-on-one. So a couple other things I just wanted to go over. There are different ways to get the, you can get a student license, you can get a 6-month student license. So those of you who haven't bought it and you're working on your dissertation, you could do that. There are 2 years student license. If you haven't started your dissertation yet, you could do that. Or for further reading. Also, this is a good book. It's actually, see if there's an update, because this uses version 8, but it'll walk you through lessons and data sets and qualitative data analysis if you like a book version. There are free workshops, Atlas.ti. If you go to their website, look for free workshops. Also, you can, there's YouTube videos all over, like a scope and sequence. But mainly, what I would recommend is, I think you should know enough to get your feet wet and try it out. Try it with your research if you have data already. Contact me if you have any questions, and I'll walk you through any stumbling blocks, okay? Do you guys have any questions? Or all right, I know it's a lot of information in a short period of time, but you've got good instincts, so I think you'll be fine. And this is one thing, you just got to get your hands wet, or your feet wet, or your hands dirty. I forget how that goes, but get your feet wet, your hands dirty. Don't get behind your ears wet. That's not a good thing. All right. And it's 8 o'clock. I'm going to kick it off here now. Enjoy the rest of your week, and email me if you have any questions. All right. And you can download, if you take that link down, you can download the presentation itself.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you,
Schamberg,
Dr.
as
Schamberg.
always.
Thank you so much, Dr.
Thank
Thank
Schamberg.
you.
Night, ladies.
Thank you for showing up.